यशोदानन्दन भज जनार्दन यशोदा नन्दन भज जनार्दन जमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदा नन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन जमुनातीरावनचारि यमुनातीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राम राधे जय राधा रासबिहारी राधा रासबिहारी राधे जय राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधे जय गौरांगी बंगलोरेश्वर गौरांगी जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव Jai Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Bol Hari Bol Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Hari Nam Sankirtan Mahayagya Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Shata His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaranda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Iskcon founder Acharya BBD founder Acharya Savior of the whole universe जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत इस डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नमाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ षट गोस्वामी प्रभुगढ़ की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय कावेरी माई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी महारानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतं सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुलं गायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुणदन्तारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं श्रीदय चैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओम तत्सत् Hi Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, our continuous conversation which has been going on. We'll continue here from Canto 4, Chapter 1. Today's text numbers are 46, 47, and 48.3. So we will be reading from these three texts. So we read from 46 and 47 text and then also go on to 48 text. ताएते मुनया शतर्लोकन् सर्गभिरभावयन् एषा कर्दमा दौहित्रा सन्ताना कतिस्तास्तवा श्नवता श्रद्धानस्य साध्यपापाहर परा परसुतिं मनविं दक्षा उपाय में है अजातमजा. Text number 48. तस्यं ससराज द्रुहित्रा सोदास्मालालोचना त्रयोदशाद धर्माया तथा कम अज्ञाया विभु. Read the word-to-word translation for text number 46. They, all, Munaya, great sages. Shata, O Vidura, Lokan, the three worlds. Sargai, with their descendants. Abhyayan, filled. Esha, this. Kardama, of the sage of Kardama. Dauhitra, grandsons. Santana, offspring. Kathita, already spoken. Tava, unto you. Shnavahata, hearing. Shraddha Dhanyasya of the faithful. Sadhya immediately. Papahara reducing all sinful activities. Para great. Pasutim Pashuti. Manavim daughter of Manu. Daksha King Daksha. Upayame married. He certainly. Ajatmaja son of Brahma. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. There is no purport to both this 46, 47, and 48 words. So we will just read the translation and go ahead with our discussion. My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of the sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the description of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughter, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha. Whatever translation for text number 48. Tasyam unto her. Sasraja created. Duhitra daughters. Sodasha 16. Amala Lochana with lotus-like eyes. Taryodasha 13. Adat gave. Dharmaya to Dharma. Tatha so. Ekam one daughter. Agnaye to Agni. Vibhu Daksha. Translation to text number 48. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of the 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport, the Bhaktivedanta translation to text number 46, 47, and 48. This is from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1. Chapter is titled Genealogical Tables of Daughters of Manu. Something very important that we will go through here. So let's discuss that. Amagyana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome all the wonderful Vaishnavas to this discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, which we have been continuing. So in the last chapter, we discussed about Karda Muni and his lineage, and then Karda Muni was blessed with daughters and one son, Kapiladev. And Kapiladev gave instructions to Mother Devahuti, and as a submissive disciple, Mother Devahuti heard Karda Muni very, very attentively, accepting as the words of his son as his own guru's word. So she continued with that, and then she had a lot of questions from Kardama Muni, and Kardama Muni also answered all the questions. Kapila Muni also answered all the questions, and wonderfully it was described in the previous chapter. And in this chapter, the shloka again, I'll read this for my own benefit and benefit of all of us who are online here. The translation to 46 and 47 verse, it says, "My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of the sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the description of this dynasty," this is the most important part of this translation that we should look at. "Anyone who hears the description of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all the sinful reactions." So, just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, just by hearing the pastimes of the devotees, and just by hearing about this dynasty of Manu Maharaj, one can be relieved from all sinful reactions. So, such a simple process that is given to us just by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we can be relieved from all the sinful reactions. We will be relieved from all the sinful reactions which even we have not committed. That is how our Shastras tell us that it has so much of potency that when we hear the Shastras, and especially Srila Prabhupada has been so merciful on us that he's given us such a lucid translation. What happens? Some of us, well, I don't know Sanskrit so well. I'm sure many of us find it a little difficult. Yes, there are many devotees who have mastered Sanskrit. They know Sanskrit. They recite the shlokas very well. But for some of us who do not know anything, how to read Sanskrit, how to pronounce Sanskrit, Srila Prabhupada was so merciful that he's given us such lucid translation and purports to all all the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, all the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then at a later date, when Srila Prabhupada left this mortal world and went back home, back to Godhead, his disciples, including some of them like Gopi Parandhana Prabhu, and all of them completed Srimad Bhagavatam, gave us the translation so that we can understand it very, very easily, read it, practice it, and follow it. And not only that, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to read it, follow it, and also pass it to the others. And that's where he started Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. It's not that he would have said, okay, my disciples, please read every day 4 hours of Srimad Bhagavatam in seclusion. All of you individually can read, sit wherever you want to sit and read. But he didn't say that. Srila Prabhupada said Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. Sevaya means relish it. Sevaya means perform the seva. Sevaya means you ensure that you speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada established this very clearly, saying that every day in all the Iskcon centers across the world, there's a discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, and wonderful devotees, talk about the various pastimes of the Lord. And this itself is so purifying that, we will be relieved from all kinds of sinful reactions that we would have committed or even which we have not committed so far. So yesterday, we heard from His Grace Krishna Kishore Prabhu wonderful pastimes of the Lord, where Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, they were all approached by this great sage, and everybody had their own thoughts about him. And finally, when he approaches Vishnu, he actually kicks him in his chest. But Lord Vishnu never feels bad. He says, "Oh, great sage, I hope my chest, which is so hard, or my heart, which is so hard, has not hurt your leg." And, so that's the kind of translations which have been given by Srila Prabhupada, which are very, very important for us. And here in continuation of this, we see Manu Maharaj's daughters. There was another daughter known as Prasuti. She married the son of Brahma named Daksha. And then Daksha, you all know after that, Daksha had 16 beautiful daughters. And here the comparison is given as lotus-like eyes of his wife Prasuti. So the 16 daughters, 13 were given marriage to Dharma, one daughter was given to Agni, and there are two more other daughters who are there. And one, anyway, we will discuss that as we move forward from here. One was given to Lord Shiva as Daksha's daughter, and then there's a pastime of Daksha insulting Lord Shiva, and then uh, Shiva's his bhutas, his army of bhutas come and destroy the kingdom of Daksha, and so on and so forth. So that we will discuss as and when we come across to that. Today's point of discussion that I thought was very important for us to is listen and practice about devotional service and pure devotional service, which is very, very rare. Here also, Srila Prabhupada in this shloka gave that example, saying that just by hearing this, one can be purified. So, Srila Rupa Goswami describes, 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, and the 6 points, how does it provide relief from the material world, is also given, which is very important. So, today we'll have discussion on pure devotional service, 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. And the first point is the Kleshagni. Actually, devotional service provides relief from the material distress. Material world is full of distress. How many of us feel that material world is full of happiness? None of us. At least a sane person, a qualified person, or a person who's in his senses will never say that material world is a great place to live or continue here. Everybody, as per our Shastras, which very clearly tell us that material world is not a place for gentlemen. It is only place for rogues. So when we fall into this category of becoming devotees or trying to become devotees, we become gentlemen. And gentlemen would not want to be in this material world. So pure devotional service actually gives relief from kleshagni. It provides relief from the material distress. The second characteristic, shubhata. By practicing the devotional service, one attains auspiciousness. Now, many times we feel, what is auspiciousness? Auspiciousness does not mean anything material. Many times we say, oh, it's going to be a very auspicious day if you start your activity on so and so day. So likewise, they say Akshaya Tritiya is one day where if you do any activity all through the day, anytime, you don't have to actually see the time. But then that's more to do with non-devotional service or material activities. But for a devotee, practicing Krishna consciousness itself brings in Shubhada. That means one attains auspiciousness, whether it is somebody sitting in a burial ground or somebody sitting in a temple. Wherever he takes the holy name of the Lord, it has all the auspiciousness. So many times we see devotees going to lay the final rites of other devotees, and they carry their chanting beads or they lead kirtan. So people think, why these guys are singing? We recently had one of our devotees who left his body, and when all the devotees went to the burial ground, when we went to give the final rites, there were others who were coming, crying, morosed, and that is the way they were there. But then devotees were all chanting. So why do these devotees chant? Chanting is an auspiciousness, taking the name of the Lord or devotional service is auspicious. Even when we just recently saw the departure of His Holiness Gopala Krishna Goswami Maharaj, there was beautiful kirtan which was going on all through, from the time that Maharaj was there in the hospital till the time that he left his body, till the time that he moved back to Delhi temple. From Delhi temple, he came to Vrindavan, and in Vrindavan also his, body was kept for darshan of devotees. And then finally, when he was laid to rest in the samadhi, the kirtan was going on. So that means devotional service is auspiciousness. When we do devotional service, wherever it is, whichever place it is auspiciousness. Third characteristic of pure devotional service is moksha laghuta krita. It derives even the happiness of liberation. What does it mean? It actually says that, it even overrides the happiness of liberation. If somebody is liberated, people think that that's the highest level. But By practicing devotional service, you don't even think of getting liberated. You say, I just want to serve. I just want to do devotional service. Please note, there is a difference between pure devotion and pure devotional service. Service is seva. So when it comes to service, it is always very important that it gives us the happiness, and this happiness is even beyond liberation. And the fourth characteristic of pure devotional service is sudurlabha. It is very rarely achieved. So when I was reading this, I was thinking, when it is very rarely achieved, where do I have an opportunity to stand a chance to achieve pure devotional service? So many times we give up certain things when we see that it is going to be very difficult or it is very rare. Like some of us think of climbing the Mount Everest, but when you hear the height, when you hear the challenges, when you hear the difficulties, and it is also said very rarely people climb up Mount Everest, you give up. But that's not the way in devotional service. Devotional service, you get support of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Our Guru guides us in achieving this pure devotional service. Sadhus encourage us in taking up pure devotional service, and our Shastras guide us as to how we have to take up the devotional service. So the fourth advantage or fourth characteristic of pure devotional service is that it is rarely achieved. But for devotees, it becomes very easy because they've always been practicing Krishna consciousness, and they rarely think of getting liberated. They only want to do service. And the fifth characteristic is it automatically imbues one with transcendental pleasure. What is transcendental pleasure? Transcendental pleasure means something which we cannot get uh, from the material activities or the material possessions that we have. We may have a big car, we may have a big bungalow, we may have all the comforts of life, but we will not get that kind of pleasure which actually comes from pure devotional service. And the sixth one, which is again very, very important, and I would say, to me, it is the top important thing when we do pure devotional service. It gives you Sri Krishna Akarshani. That means it is the only means to attract Krishna. Even if we discount the other advantages of pure devotional service or other characteristics of pure devotional service, if we take this last one, that this is the only thing which attracts you to Krishna. Yeah, Sri Krishna Akarshani. So when we take up pure devotional service, when we have become devotees and when we practice Krishna consciousness, it attracts us to Krishna. This is a very practical example. As I said in the beginning also, it is not devotion. It is not pure devotion, it is pure devotional service. Service is the criteria for the seva. I remember when I took up to Krishna consciousness right in the initial days, I was not very interested in reading the Shastras or chanting. But there was this group of devotees, and specifically one devotee who got me engaged into some seva in the temple. And I liked the seva so much that I got into Krishna consciousness and continued. So that's the way devotional service is. When you get into service, when you get into seva, you get attraction, and Krishna attracts you. And also, you can attract Krishna. It's both ways. Krishna attracts you by his devotional service, and then you attract Krishna by practicing pure devotional service. The nectar of devotion lists these characters in different orders. NOD. When we describe, you may understand this a little better. And as we said, kleshagni is relief from all distresses. Okay. And klesha refers to all the distresses and causes of distresses also. So it actually relieves you from kleshagni. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that devotional service is the best means to obtain relief from distress because it is the only process. Okay. Please, have this very clear in our mind, saying that this is the only process. Devotional service is the only process which can release us from distress, because It is the only process which can counteract all the three causes. So the first one is papam. Papam is sinful activities. Sinful activities or actions, it actually produces two reactions. Prarabdha karma, that is manifested, and aprarabdha karma, unmanifested. And Srila Prabhupada describes this, that for some of our activities, some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distress in future, and for others, which are mature, we are suffering at the present time. So in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada gives this clarification very clearly, saying that when we do sinful activities, sometimes the results of it immediately come in, and sometimes the results take some time for it to manifest. So that is papam. And manifesting of the sinful reactions, that is prarabdha papam, what we call it as. A disease caught early is curable, but is far more difficult to eradicate if it is allowed to become chronic. So right at the initial stage, if we are able to cut the disease, then you recover much faster. Once you recognize the symptoms and once you start taking medication, this I'm talking from the material part of it. But it's a very simple example that can be given, that if the disease is caught at a very early stage, then it is curable. But if it is allowed to become chronic, then it becomes very difficult. It will be difficult to eradicate or remove it. Similarly, sinful reactions are more difficult to eradicate once they become manifest. So even before they become manifest, we should eradicate them. And devotional service can remove the manifest sinful reactions along with the suffering they bring in. So they actually remove your, troubles that we get, the difficulties that we get, along with whatever suffering that they get. So it's completely removed. And in the previous canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mother Devahuti explains that by practicing devotional service, even someone born in the lowest family of dog eaters, Chandalas, become qualified to perform the highest Vedic sacrifice. The behavior of those born into degraded family disqualifies them from performing Vedic activities. Yeah, but this devotional service takes them to a level much, much higher, and they can become qualified to perform highest Vedic sacrifice. Devati also points out that even the slightest engagement in devotional service can counteract the disqualifications incurred by low birth. If somebody takes up to, we've taken this, there's no description. Probably I would take my own example, saying that, I was not born in a very high affluential family of, brahmanas or devotees. But then with that little tinge or little touch, little engagement that we all got in touch with devotees, wonderful Vaishnavas, we are all able to come out or counteract the disqualifications that we had of a low birth. So here, Mother Devahuti is giving an example, saying that even if it is a Chandala, even if it is a dog eater, if he gets a slight engagement in devotional service, his disqualification that is incurred because of his low birth is removed and he is moved to a higher platform. And we all know our birth is a tangible result of karma. And it's actually a manifest reaction of prarabdha papam. Thus, Devahuti's statement, here which says that devotional service can eradicate prarabdha karma. Very clearly, Mother Devahuti points out that, devotional service can eradicate prarabdha papam or prarabdha karma that we have. Now, that is as far as prarabdha karma. There's another one which is unmanifest sinful reaction, that is aprarabdha papam. It's like a blazing fire. Devotional service is able to consume limitless amount of unmanifest sinful reaction. So in Nectar of Devotion itself, Srila Prabhupada says that as the blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, so devotional service to Lord Krishna can burn up all the fuel of sinful reactions or all the fuel of sinful activities. Very nicely, Srila Prabhupada has described it. And let's get into more details of how unmanifest reactions cause suffering. For example, if we engage in illicit sex, we receive two types of reactions. One type can create some direct physical or emotional suffering, and the other type will create indirect suffering by exuberating our proclivity, desire for sex, thereby increasing our sexual desire, impelling the future illicit sex desire and entangling us in the karmic reactions of suffering. Yeah, the reaction of suffering comes in. When the sinful desire increases, sinful activities increase. When sinful activities increase, sinful desire increases. So it's a cyclical reaction that happens. Once we have a sinful desire, it increases sinful activities. And when we do more sinful activities, it increases sinful desires. So, and it's very important for us to crack, or very important for us to break that cycle of sinful desire and sinful reaction, sinful desires and sinful activities that needs to be broken. And the more we try to satisfy our desires, the stronger they become. So we should actually cut them at that instance itself. And to break the cycle of bondage, we must tolerate sinful desires and not endeavor to fulfill them, not being reinforced by the material or the unmanifest reactions. When we are being reinforced by the unmanifest reactions, they will gradually dissipate and leave the heart forever. Permanently, it will be cured from our heart. It is very, very strong. This one, NOD, is giving very, very solid indications, nectar of devotion. And to break this cycle, it is very important. The cycle, one needs to practice Krishna consciousness. Evolution of this unmanifest sin or reaction that we see, the cycle of unmanifest reaction goes through 4 stages. And this is explained very nicely in Padma Puran. It says aprarabdha, that is unmanifest reaction. And then the stage, the reaction is completely unmanifest and no perceptible effect at all. The second one is Uttam, that is sinful proclivity. The reaction evolves around psychological disposition towards a sin. Then there is Bijam, the third one is sinful desire that actually sprouts in the heart. The sinful proclivity evolves around specific desire to commit a particular sinful action. Yeah, like, the murderer always thinks of murdering somebody and taking money. So that's the desire to commit a sinful action of killing a person. Then there is prarabdha, manifest sinful reaction. The sinful reaction causes us to commit a sinful action and suffer the co-contaminated reactions. Now let's take one example which will actually help us clarify the subtle distinctions between these 4 stages. As a result of some of these sinful activities, a man, a human being is destined to become a thief and to suffer the punishment. However, these reactions are not immediately felt. He may steal today, he may not get caught. Maybe after 5 years, he may get caught. And then he gets the punishment, right? It is stored for future birth. So the sinful activities that one commits, it is stored within the lifetime or in the next lifetime. Yeah. And in the next lifetime, the reactions begin with manifesting an almost unnoticed proclivity towards dishonesty and cheating. The proclivity gradually intensifies and eventually manifests in explicit desire to steal. He gets that desire to again steal, and the desire causes the man to steal and undergo the consequential suffering. So he steals, he gets the desire, he goes, steals whatever, and then he gets punishment for this. Actually, devotional service eradicates all 4 stages of sinful reaction in the order of their development. First, the aparabdha is removed. Next, the putam is removed. Then the bijam is removed. And finally, the prarabdha is kind of removed from it. Now, it gives again, the description saying that for those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the sinful reactions, whether they are fructified or they are in stalk or they are in form of a seed, they actually vanish. They gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very, very strong. And that is why it is called Pavitram Uttamam. Pavitram Uttamam. That's the highest platform that we really look at. Again, in Padma Puran, there is a description of the bijam, the desire which actually fructifies. It actually, Rupa Goswami describes it as the first cause of suffering. Yeah. So the first cause of suffering itself is bijam, the desire to commit activities. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, 17th verse, the Vishnu Dotas actually explain as to that how devotional process can neutralize the reaction of sinful activities. Yeah, it is not only that it can neutralize the reactions of the sinful activities, but only devotional service can uproot the sinful desires, which can be the cause of the sinful activities. We say that, nib it in the bud. Many times we've heard this very popular saying that nib it in the bud, it should not sprout up at all. So that is what happens. The Vishnu Dutas are very clearly explaining here that devotional service not only neutralizes the sinful activities, but devotional service can actually uproot the sinful desires from our heart. And Srila Prabhupada actually elaborates this by citing the examples of, or the story of Ajamila. Despite his strict performance of Brahminical duties, the sinful desires or sinful activities remained in Ajamila's heart and caused him to succumb to sinful life. Later, a very sinful activity. What did Ajamila do? Nothing. He just called out to his son, Narayana. And he was not referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Very simple devotional service of chanting Narayana, Narayana, Narayana uprooted all his calamities, all his challenges, all his difficulties that he had. Although he was in the midst of all the sinful activities. Now, going a little beyond this also, all our Vedic rituals, such as charity that we give, charity to the right person, to the right place at the right time, austerity that we follow, can neutralize all sinful reactions, but they cannot neutralize the sinful desire, which is very important. So Srila Prabhupada gives two examples to illustrate this point. He says a person may be cured of a vulnerable disease by accepting a painful medicine, but because sex desires remain as a heart, he again implicates himself to the suffering. Though, he may accept medical treatment, but because that desire is there in his heart, he's again implicated in suffering. Like an elephant, the second example is given by Srila Prabhupada that an elephant may take bath carefully in a lake, but upon returning to the land, he immediately covers himself with the dirt. He takes the mud and pours it on him. Devotional service can uproot even sinful desire, and therefore, the best method of attaining relief from suffering is devotional service. Again, Srila Prabhupada summarizes the quotations from Padma Puran, where he says, pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and which can enlighten. And when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all inauspicious snakes of desire. In this quotation, Srila Prabhupada translates the Sanskrit word avidyam as desire. Usually, avidya is translated as ignorance, but in this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada describes this as desire. According to Srila Prabhupada, he says the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed. Srila Prabhupada is very, very strong many times. He is not strong because he wants to be strong. He's strong because he wants to hit very hard in our mind. So in conclusion, devotional service can eradicate sinful reactions, nullify sinful desires, counteracts the material proclivities, and most importantly, devotional service can uproot ignorance. Therefore, it is the only efficient and effective way to achieve permanent relief from all the sufferings. So, very, very nice, something that we discussed today. It's very, very important for us to, though the subject matter is very vast, very large, we can actually go on and on and on with the desire that we have and the characteristics of pure devotional service. I will want to stop our conversation here. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If there are any comments, there are various senior devotees online. request you to make any comments if they are there, or please correct me if I have not been right in making some statement. Or if you have a question, I'll try and answer it. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for explaining very nicely about the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that these topics have been discussed in the first part of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So very nicely explained, and it was a good revision for us, for me in particular. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So if there are no questions, we will end our session today here. We offer our obeisances at the lotus feet of all the Vaishnava devotees. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha titanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much for joining. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Natai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavats.
Prabhuji, sorry for coming a bit late to ask a question, Prabhu. There was a question in my mind.
Please.
Yes, Prabhuji. First of all, thanks for a very wonderful class, Prabhuji. And as you said, devotional. When we do devotional service, we can come out of the distress. So the distress is how do we understand the distress? Distress is material distress, or what kind of distress we are talking about, Prabhuji?
Prabhu, distress can be anything material or spiritual. So when we talk about material distress, maybe some disease on our body, our family not doing very well, kleshas with the family, or professional problems. In business we have so many problems. In at work we have so many problems. So these are all distresses that we find. Spiritual distress is actually something which everybody should get. Spiritual distress means saying that I am not able to chant my rounds properly. I'm not able to pronounce properly or hear properly. I'm not able to read Srimad Bhagavatam properly. I'm not able to attend the various festivals in the temple. Though there are various reasons for all this. Sometimes devotees find it difficult because they stay away from the temple. Their working hours are odd and they're not able to attend the programs or Srimad Bhagavatam class. So there are two kinds of distress. One is the spiritual distress, one is the material distress. So material distress is in the front of our personal life that we have with the material body, what is associated, our business, our families, our profession, our interactions with the material world. Yeah, so that's one kind of distress. The other one is spiritual distress, where we are not able to do it. Both can be eradicated once we take up to Krishna consciousness or when we take up to devotional service. So, you can put it across in both the ways, whether it is spiritual distress or material distress. I hope that answers your question, Prabhu.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Danda Pranam.
Thank you very much. So we'll end our session. Thank you very much for joining. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.